Hello film lover fans, you are welcome to Filmhead, where you will get all kinds of information about newly released movie on internet, Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, or any other OTT platform or in theater worldwide. Let's start our today's topic. Number 1. Code 8 Part 2. Despite its timely themes, Robbie and Stephen Amell's cousin Jeff Chan's sci-fi action picture Code 8, which was made, went mostly unnoticed. A Netflix-backed sequel has given the franchise fresh life, despite a sequel series failing with Quibi's demise. Similar to its predecessor, Code 8, Part 2 criticizes the growing violence of the military police state, particularly in the era of surveillance, through its high-concept sci-fi. Set 5 years after the events of the first film, Robbie Amell plays Connor, a small-time crook just out of prison. Stephen Amell plays Garrett, the drug kingpin Connor partnered with in an ill-fated attempt to save his dying mother. Both men are Powers, the title given to the 4% of the fictional Lincoln City's population who have superpowers. These residents are treated as second-class citizens, kept in poverty, and heavily policed. It is a purposefully gritty attempt to infuse traditional superhero tropes into a movie about societal corruption on a large scale. Although it tells a relatively basic story with familiar characters, the movie's thematic intentions and cinematic tricks are interesting enough to engage the audience over its well-paced runtime. The crowd-funded film Code 8 was an unexpectedly enjoyable addition to the contemporary sci-fi genre. It drew inspiration from street-level dramas reimagining superpower stories, like Daredevil. The protagonist of both movies is Connor, who possesses the gift of electrical energy control and channeling from birth. The first film looked at how this disenfranchised reality forced many powered people to either hide their abilities or turn to a life of crime to survive. Their powers have also been used to create an addictive drug called Psych, which is derived through their spinal fluid. Trafficking and deals made with the corrupt cops ensue. The action scenes are still corny but entertaining because both Amells gave their all to the role, acting entirely seriously as they used lightning to control items or summon lightning. In terms of tone and intensity, a particular notable segment stars Jessica Allen as Tamara, a powerful woman with the ability to wipe memories. Another great new addition is Connor's boss, Mina Jean Yoon, who has the ability to resist gunshots. Number 2. Dune 2. Massive is the term that will probably be used to characterize Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 2 the most. Anticipate numerous alterations to the terms epic and spectacle as well. Whatever lofty terms you choose to describe the outcome, Villeneuve clearly did not approach Frank Herbert's cherished science fiction novel with low expectations, and it is precisely this ambition, as well as the caliber of the crew he worked with behind the scenes, that has paid off in this excellent sequel to the Oscar-winning 2021 picture. While that beloved blockbuster often felt like half a film, Dune, Part 2 locates significantly higher stakes on Arrakis, while injecting just enough humor and nuanced themes about power and fanaticism to flavor the old-fashioned storytelling. More than a simple savior or chosen one story, Dune, Part 2 is a robust piece of filmmaking, a reminder that this kind of broad-scale blockbuster can be done with artistry and flair. It is a best-ever film in 2024 as per audience reaction. A far more potent critique of the white savior narrative might center the Freeman, perhaps put someone like Zendaya's Freeman warrior Chani in the protagonist role. Why can't she have a hero's journey, rather than Paul? But that's not the book that Herbert wrote, and if Villeneuve wants to adhere closely to the novel, Paul as savior is the story we are stuck with. Dune, Part 2 picks up so closely on the heels of the first film that the Freemen are still transporting the body of Jaime's home again after he was bested in the fight with Paul Atreides. After the massacre of House Atreides, Paul chose to go with the Freemen, much to the consternation of his mother Jessica. Dune 2 is a genuinely terrifying movie, though it sneaks up on you. Even if you are an open-minded, politically aware soul already attuned to the horrific shit going down in our real 2020s world. Partly it's terrifying because obviously so many people, including the artists making blockbuster movies, can see what's happening to us all, and yet we seem to be collectively incapable of stopping it. Number 3. Damsel. There are many stories of chivalry and where the heroic knight saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of them. That is how Millie Bobby Brown's sumptuous new fantasy film begins. So we know from the start that there will be a damsel, she will be in distress, as well as she will have to get herself out of it. Actually, not many surprises await you here. Perhaps a few more would have improved Fast X writer Mezzo's narrative. However, there is a straightforward, mechanical thrill to witnessing an underdog, motivated by a well-known current of retribution, battle her way back from the depths. After a brief prologue, with knights facing a fire-breathing dragon, we see Elodie chopping wood centuries later in a faraway land. She and her adored younger sister Floria live in a remote, snowy community that is in dire circumstances. They are down to selling the drapes in their castle for food. But then a messenger arrives with a letter, closed with a royal seal. A queen is proposing that Elodie become the bride of her son, the prince, with a handsome dowry that will restore their land to prosperity. The warmth, abundance, and elegance of the queen's home astound Elodie and Floria, and their welcome comforts them. Nick Robinson's Prince Henry seems to be every bit the charming prince you would expect from a fairy tale. Another character is his mother, played by Robin Wright as Isabel. She is regal but distant, icily rejecting Elodie's stepmother, Lady Bayford, when she tries to be friendly. Brown is no stranger to a hero's world that's been turned upside down, and in this regard, the Stranger Things star ably grounds Elodie's struggle. The same can't be said of the supporting cast, however, despite the involvement of big names like Ray Winstone, Angela Bassett, and Robin Wright. There's nothing wrong with going hammy if it serves the tone, but the delivery and those accents prove as lifeless as the dragon's victims. Even while Damsel does not completely change the tale, she does a good job of reworking it into a thrilling revenge thriller that speaks to younger female viewers in a subtle but uplifting way and soothes older viewers who were raised on the same tired gendered cliches. Number 4. Alienoid. Return to the Future. With his Alienoid series, Choi Dong-hoon reimagines the vocabulary of time travel in movies. The filmmaker takes even more artistic and narrative risks to captivate audiences with Alienoid. Return to the Future, its sequel, which is currently showing in theaters. Don't try to understand it. Feel it, is the core tenet Christopher Nolan attempted to introduce its audiences within his time travel sci-fi drama Tenet. But this approach can only work if the director fully commits himself to forego large chunks of exposition and explain everything the audience needs to know through a show-stopping display of image and sound making. Tenet is frequently used as the quintessential example of a vibes movie. However, there are no vibes to a movie that batters its audience with endless, contradicting information, masking its actors' performances with oxygen masks and an overly loud sound design. Writer-director Choi Dong-hoon's duology Alienoid and Alienoid 2, The Return to the Future defies genre, because the films contain elements of nearly every genre. Calling them historical action, fantasy, thriller, sci-fi, martial arts, comedy, time travel, family dramas comes pretty close. Choi pulls off his audacious project with incredible finesse. The story begins in a Korean village in 1380. Guard and Thunder battle and capture an escaped prisoner whose human host dies in the melee, leaving behind an infant daughter. They bring the baby with them to the present, Seoul, 2012, and raise her, naming her Leon. Known as the Controller, one of these aliens seeks to destroy humanity while taking over Earth and releasing a poisonous material known as the Hava to make the world hospitable for extraterrestrial life. In an attempt to stop the Controller from releasing the Hava, Guard, Thunder, and their adopted daughter Een go back in time and land around 1391 AD. Murik, a Taoist swordsman, is searching for something called the Divine Blade there. Alienoid 1 and 2 are totally immersive, but they're also something to marvel at from a meta perspective. The action in Alienoid, Return to the Future, largely informs our comprehension of the story. In the lore Dong-hoon crafts, each motion the performers make in their distinct settings helps us comprehend each character in greater detail. This makes it possible for us to identify with them as they do amazing feats that border on comedy but are always thrilling to see. Number 5. Spaceman 2024. 6 months into a solitary research mission to the edge of the solar system, an astronaut, Yakub, realizes that the marriage he left behind might not be waiting for him when he returns to Earth. Desperate to fix things with his wife, Lenka, he is helped by a mysterious creature from the beginning of time he finds hiding in the bowels of his ship. Hannes works with Yakub to make sense of what went wrong before it is too late. In this surprisingly dull science fiction drama, Sandler plays a lone astronaut facing the fractures in his marriage with assistance from an 8-legged alien voiced by Paul Dano. Yakub and his emotional support arachnid drift aimlessly towards some kind of nebulous insight, accompanied by a score that sounds like the kind of formless ambient wafting that gets piped into a flotation tank. Spaceman is a fascinatingly odd premise let down by its drab, dispiritingly inert execution. Spaceman, which had its world premiere at the Berlin International Film Festival, a surprisingly subdued Sandler takes a swing at the sad boy space odyssey genre. Yes, some men would much rather chat to a big spider in space than visit a therapist. Yakub does start a sort of therapy with Hannes, working through his painful childhood experiences and current concerns in a contemplative space film that is heavy on empathy but light on grandeur. Despite the dour tone and grim lighting, Spaceman does consciously maintain a silly air. I mean, it's Sandler in space with a giant spider. It must have a few jokes. Some hilarious bits arise from Yakub's depression being so overwhelming it causes the spider to feel it too, ultimately forcing the arachnid to turn to snacks to quell the sad vibes. But other funny moments naturally evolve from Dano's low-key voice work. His presence has a weight to it, as one might anticipate from a spider that could be as old as the cosmos itself. Additionally, Yakub and the audience find the character endearing because of its fragility and feeling of generosity. Man and spider, two reclusive creatures who discover camaraderie in each other, make a great team. In fact, an embrace between them makes them giggle and feel cozy.